Welcome to Podlomania Podcast, your photography and video podcast, where we introduce you to some of the most amazing creatives from around the world. I'm your host, Wayne Johns, and I'm here with my good friend, buddy, and co-host, as always, Jake Hicks. Hey, man.
How you doing?
How you doing? On our little video call here, mate, I've got to say, you're looking very relaxed, very summery.
That's it, mate. Yeah, I mean, it's just all this crazy amount of work I've been doing. I presume I'll just crash any moment, crash and burn any moment. But yeah, I must say these intros that you're doing, I will just say to our audience that Wayne has never missed one. He's never messed one up. It's always been one take.
True.
Every single time. Yeah.
And it's all from memory now.
Pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive. Look at it.
You're also gonna do. You've never messed up an intro of a guest either. So no pressure, Wayne.
Yeah.
Just
Thanks,
saying.
mate.
Yeah. Just saying.
Thanks, buddy. That's about to change, and our perfect history is going to crash. So you're working a bit harder at the moment, mate. Obviously, we're on lockdown with COVID-19, like a massive proportion part of the world, and you're working a lot harder than you ever have.
I know.
Putting some tutorials together in education.
Yeah, it's I mean, obviously, like every other photographer. Yeah, everything's been cancelled for the foreseeable future. Yeah. So I had to do a bit of a 180 on the business front, and I'm now doing a lot of mentoring online with a lot of my community, and it has been great actually. Been speaking to people from all over the world this week. So it's been, obviously it's good to get the money coming in, but it has genuinely been fascinating to speak to all these people and see what they're doing and looking at their business in their region and seeing how they're doing things. Because I think like us as photographers normally, we're pretty much lone wolves, aren't they? We're just out there on our own shooting. We never really shoot with one another, as it were. So to speak to other photographers and speak to them about what they're going through and fighting with is, it's been great. Yeah, it's been really good. Yeah. But yeah, a lot of work. A lot of work.
A lot of work. I mean, you must be working hard. I didn't want to say you're looking a bit slimmer, mate. You must be really pumping out. Working so hard you're losing weight.
Yeah, it must be this new TikTok app I've been using. It's that filter.
Getting your dance moves on. That's coming in another episode, folks. Jake's cutting some shapes.
Yeah. My OnlyFans link will be in the description. Thanks very much. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I must do that. Welcome to the Jake Hicks channel.
Appreciate your voice that way. Must do your lip.
Okay, mate. Well, we're going to dive a little bit into COVID-19 just with our guest as well, because we're all in the same boat. We're all having to do other kinds of work at the moment as well and get through things and approach our business in a slightly different manner than we normally do. So let's just introduce the episode and our lovely guest and bring her into the show, shall we?
Perfect. First time, Wayne.
Perfect.
No pressure. Can't wait.
He says
Looking
it just
forward to
before
it.
I'm about to break into it. Amazing. Well, folks, welcome to episode 27. And today we're going to be talking with the very talented fashion and beauty photographer, director, and art director, Elisabeth Hoff, who's based in London. Now, Elisabeth loves to create imagery that leads to positive change, even if that is just as simple as leaving her subject or client feeling great. Now, aside from her photographic skills and a previous life, she actually trained as a marine biologist and then went one step further in life's little journey and attempted the absolutely mental challenge to be the first woman to row solo across the Atlantic, which actually led to a very near-death experience. Jake, do you think after that one she thought, stuff being trapped upside down in a boat, in the dark, I think I'm going to go and pick up a camera and give that a whirl?
Yeah, I saw this in the show notes. I am fascinated to hear this story. Yeah, because that's one hell of an intro.
Well, let's bring it. Elisabeth, welcome to the show. It's lovely to have you on, and thanks for agreeing to do this. I know we've been planning this for some time with you, with some hurdles in the interim.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure.
Who's that nutter you're talking about?
What, Jake? crazy lady. You're not wearing a cat t-shirt, are you, by any chance?
Not today. Maybe tomorrow.
But thanks for coming on. It's beautiful. And, we've been in contact a lot before this anyway. And we've been trying to get all sorted. But thanks for coming on the show. We've got a great set of questions for you, even though you haven't seen them yet. So, nerves on the edge, waiting in anticipation. Scared, frightened, all of the above?
Terrified. Bring it on.
Bring it on. There's a woman who likes a challenge. Here we go. Okay. So, our first question is the same to all our guests. So for our audience, how would you describe yourself and what you do?
Ooh. So I'm an image maker. First most. I started out as a photographer, and I realized that a few years ago that, to kind of keep moving with the times, I would have to create images, not just stills pictures. So I moved into moving image as well, and produce imagery for mostly fashion and beauty clients, from kind of website content to TV ads to stills posters, but it's all image based. But image maker, and very much involved in this area of diversity and positive change, and a bit of female empowerment in there. Just kind of opening up fashion and beauty to everybody, which I think is actually a very important message.
Yeah, and you can definitely see that female empowerment from the content on your website. So if people are listening to this, they can just jump over to elisabethhoff.com and have a look at that while they're listening to the podcast. That would be cool.
How long have you been shooting, Elisabeth? How long have you been doing
it? 20 years now.
And when did you transition into the video side of things as well?
Probably about 6-7 years ago. I started to pick up the Canon and film a bit, while I was shooting, totally out of my comfort zone. And then kind of just slowly but surely managed to piece more and more together. And then got a few jobs as director as well, where I had a full crew and a DOP, and just learnt on the job, really. Kind of understand most of it now.
I think in the industry we call that winging it, but learning on the job as well, that's fine. Yeah.
Was that fake it till you make it, isn't it, Jake?
Yeah.
So, Elisabeth, where did you come from? And how did you get into photography from the depths of the ocean in a big rowboat? I mean, where's that transition?
I don't know. It's my gut feeling. I've always been somebody who follows my heart, and I grew up sailing around the world on a boat with my dad. So I guess my parents kind of showed me through that example that if you want to do something, just go for it. My dad wanted to sail around the world as a kid, and although his whole family told him he was completely crazy, he did it anyway, built a boat and took his family with him. And
built a boat?
Yeah, he did. He built
Holy
a boat.
Cow.
I know. Well, he bought a hull. He bought a ferrous cement hull and then built the rest. But basically, from the age of 5 to 10, I grew up on a boat. I think I've always just wanted to follow my heart and do what I want to do, or follow my intuition. And I'm born in Norway. My dad's Norwegian. My mum's from Scotland. Okay. And I always wanted to live in London. I didn't know why. And people would say, "Why do you want to come to London?" And I said, because when I figure out what I want to do, it will be perfect for it. So I came to London and slowly but surely figured out that I thought photography was what I wanted to do.
Cool. I like the way you sort of came to London first, then figured out what you're going to do with your life. I get it. I mean, that's a hell of a challenge, isn't it?
Well, I mean, that's creativity for you, though. Sorry.
Well,
that's creativity
that's true.
You, though, isn't it? You kind of have an intuition or an instinct on something, and then sort of follow it. Anyway, that's how I work.
Okay.
I like the approach. Yeah, I like the approach. Sometimes you just got to go with the flow, haven't you, and see where the river takes you, so to speak. Why not?
I mean, making some plans along the way is good, like some milestones of I'd like to achieve that, I'd like to do this. But there's often these windy turns along the road that take you to these amazing places. And I think if we're too stuck on what the track is, we often miss out on the amazing opportunities that are actually presented to us.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. Yeah, it's this is something I don't do enough, is to go around those twisty bends to see what little delights may be waiting around there for me. Got to get off that bloody railway line and get off that track for sure, and turn some curves.
So, how did you go from traveling around with your parents on a boat to deciding that I think now is the time for me to row across the Atlantic? Like, what is that story?
Yeah.
Well, because I'd sailed across the Atlantic several times as a kid, I guess the Atlantic wasn't this kind of big unknown ocean. The Atlantic was something I'd sailed across, I think, 4 times by the time I was 25.
Okay.
And
Wow.
I also rowed as a teenager. So once we settled back in Norway, I did competitive rowing throughout my whole teenage that was my sport. And I was strong and I was fit and I'd sailed across the Atlantic. And I've always been somebody who's been looking for a purpose or needing something sort of. I guess I'm quite extreme like that. I like extreme challenges. And there was an ocean rowing race that was going on, I think in 1995 or something, just when I was graduating. And I was like, oh, I should do that. And I actually convinced my dad to do it with me as a double. And then I got cold feet. I realized that I needed to sort of do my own thing, and I was wondering whether I was just pleasing my dad, and I thought maybe I should get a job. And my dad actually ended up doing that crossing with somebody else, but I was the one who kind of had initiated it, and I wanted to row across the Atlantic, and
we're talking about 95, right?
Yeah, but it stuck with me, and I didn't do it in 95. I thought maybe it was 96.
Okay.
And then I decided to do the challenge on my own as an attempt to be the first woman to row solo across the Atlantic. I thought I could do that.
And just as a bit of perspective, how long does it take to sail across?
So it took us 28, 29 days to sail across.
To sail?
So rowing across the Atlantic
Holy
can take
shit.
anywhere between kind of 40 to 150 days.
What?
Depending on your following wind, current, and your personal strength, I guess.
But I like the way you flip that situation around. I mean, you instigated the rowing competition, and then you had cold feet. Your father did it with someone else, and you thought, can't believe you did that without me, Dad. Stuff it, I'm going to do it on my own. I'll show you.
Well, I realised I'd come to London and I hadn't really found what I wanted to do. I'd sort of pulled out of the rowing and came to London. I was like, I'm going to make a life for myself, but I hadn't quite pieced what that was together. And I thought, oh, well, I'll do the rowing project first and then piece the rest of my life together after instead.
And no female had done this before?
No, there'd been a couple of attempts, but they hadn't succeeded. As a solo rower.
As a solo rower, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How? I mean, not going through the whole journey, but how did that fare for you?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's kind of the clue was in the introduction. Really, how far did you get before your attempts were kiboshed, so to speak?
So I got about 500 nautical miles, which is a sixth of the way. I capsized on the morning of day 11. So I was doing really well speed-wise, and the pace was good. I was feeling great.
How big is the boat that you're in?
23 feet, I think it was. It's a while ago now.
It's a while
I don't talk about this very often.
I know.
It's quite funny bringing
I'm fascinated.
it back.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
But no, it's cool. 23-foot boat, has a little cabin in the back, and then you sit in the middle with your oars rowing.
Okay.
But you do have some. It's like it's like a very mini caravan on the water. So I did have a little cabin at the back where I could climb in and close the hatch. And
Sounds lush. Sounds lush. Yeah.
Yeah. Height of luxury.
So how do you sleep?
On the water,
you just sleep like an hour at a time or something? I mean, you can't just be left adrift, do you? Or how does that work?
Yes, that's exactly what you do. You drift.
Do you?
And then
While you're sleeping?
And then you just wake up and then...
Yeah.
Okay.
You just wake up and go, oh, crap, I got to do those 50 nautical miles all over again. The wind was blowing the other way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, if that does happen, you do have something called a sea anchor, which is like a massive parachute that you can put in the water. So if the wind is blowing you in the wrong direction and the current's not going in the same direction at the same speed, you can kind of slow your windage down. By putting that in. But obviously, if the current and the wind are going in the same direction, you're stuffed. You're going backwards.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened, Elisabeth? I mean, I kind of know a little bit of the background of this anyway, some details. I take it you were asleep, weren't you, when everything went a bit pear-shaped and a bit wrong and you ended up upside down in your boat? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Whoa.
I knew it was very, very rough. So day 10 was becoming increasingly harder to row, and the boat, was being thrown around like a ping pong. The waves were just very, very big, and the wind was getting stronger and stronger. So actually, the night of day 10, I went to bed early because I realized that it was getting dangerous, and I thought I'll just, sleep it out. So I tied everything down on deck and closed the hatch and went to sleep, really, just kind of waiting for the storm to die down. But at about 4:30, 5 a.m. in the morning, I woke up just to the most horrendous crash, and the boat had been picked up by a wave and just dumped upside down. So
holy shit.
Yeah. And I obviously realized very quickly what had happened. I woke up on the ceiling of the cabin.
Oh,
wow. But it was supposed to be a self-righting boat. So I was kind of woke up going, okay, I've capsized, but this boat is meant for capsizing and it's a self-righting boat. So I was waiting for it to self-right, but that never happened, unfortunately.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Holy cow.
So I now know why, and that is because the wave had such strength that it had ripped off the front hatch of the front compartment. So there was a back compartment and a front compartment, and the wave had ripped the hatch off at the front compartment and filled it with water. So it ruined the self-righting capabilities of the boat.
I see.
So basically, I was stuck in the back compartment, inside, upside down, underwater, in the dark. Yeah,
not gonna lie,
ideal.
I've had better ways of waking up in the morning. It sounds a bit extreme if you ask me. An alarm clock will do. It's like
me too. But it puts everything into perspective. And when people ask me, was it a mistake? Was that a mistake? I would say, well, it was rather, an extreme thing to attempt. But I knew I had the capabilities of doing a challenge like that. And if the boat had self-righted, I would have been okay. But was it a terrible experience? No, because it puts everything for the rest of your life, or has put everything for the rest of my life in perspective. That's about as bad as it gets, isn't it?
I'm with you. I mean, if I was in a situation like that and that happened to me, I'd be running to pick up a bloody camera as well, in all fairness. Done that, tried it, didn't work, right, on to the next challenge. It's like, fair play to you. Congratulations for even attempting it. That's just a tremendous feat to even attempt it. That's massive.
Yeah.
But just on a little bit of a serious note, and we'll just cover it very briefly. Obviously, we've got coronavirus at the moment. We've got COVID-19, as it's known. And it's a very surreal time, really, for everyone across the world at the moment. And currently here in the UK, obviously, we're at our sort of our peak at the moment. And it's affecting everybody in every form of business. And, as self-employed people, like we are in the photographic and moving image industry. The question is, how do we cope with things like this, and what do we do? I mean, as we said previously, we've all had clients that have been cancelled. Commissions have been cancelled, campaigns have been cancelled for months ahead, and still uncertain that those will even carry on. So what do we do in the interim as creatives? And how do you find it working from home? And what have you been doing yourself to keep yourself occupied, productive, a healthy mindset? What sort of things have you been doing to combat all of that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I had an April that was absolutely full of jobs, and now it's totally clear. But from a sort of mental perspective, I've always... I think that being a freelance photographer is actually an amazing grounding for how to deal with fear and uncertainty, because we have to deal with that all the time in our jobs. Our job, my job is not secure. I don't have an employee. I don't go to work 9 to 5. And therefore, I've had to deal with the insecurity and the fear of not getting my next job, of not being able to pay the bills for a very long time. And I was talking, to my husband the other day, and I kind of came to the conclusion that I've, with that experience, I am now emotionally so much in a better place to cope with that than a lot of people, because I've had to sort of practice those skills. And I'm very much a believer of, really trying to enjoy every day as it comes. And I think a lot of time fear can take over, and we just kind of ride that wave of fear and start worrying about everything. And this is a terrible situation that everybody's in, but it doesn't help, sitting in a place of fear. And I really think that it's so much healthier to try and then adapt to the situation and try and create positive outcomes from it. So actually, I've enjoyed so far my month of, forced non-work, and I've been getting on with a massive to-do list that has been there for years about other things that I want to do, like website tweaks and folio updates, and also trying to think of ways that maybe I can serve my clients from the office. So I've been reselling some of my old pictures or suggesting solutions for people that might work as well. I've got a couple of potential nice jobs for that, selling some imagery of celebrities that I've shot that for magazines that might need a cover, but actually being very proactive about it and getting in touch with people and asking them if I can help them. Also seeing if I thought... I also did a package for one client where I suggested that maybe I could do online fashion shoots with the models, if they send them the stuff.
Clever.
Then,
I like it,
we could do a quarantine at-home fashion shoot styled by the model themselves. But, but a lot of photography is often about a story. And stories are very interesting. And the quarantine story and self-isolation is part of our life now. So why not bring that into a lookbook, and shoot two models in their own homes wearing the next season's trends? I mean, it's still a lot better than not having a lookbook at all. And actually, there's quite a nice story behind that.
It's a story, isn't it? I mean, the flip side of that on a negative kick is that you're doing yourself out of job. when this all calms down, the magazine is going to be going, I tell you what, we like that. We had a good review and a good kickback on that. Well, I think we'll do some more of those models at home. We'll just send them the kit and away they go.
No, but you see, I don't believe that, because I think as photographers and image makers, we are the visionaries as much as anything. And I think it's very easy to feel defensive about the tools that you use and about your role, as if technology can take over from that, because they can't. It needs a brain behind it, and it needs an idea behind it. And, a computer's never going to give you a campaign idea.
No, exactly.
And also, the model's not going to light her shot as well as I would if I was over FaceTime telling her where to stand.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Hopefully. No.
So what's your favourite type of thing to shoot? I mean, fashion, beauty, portraiture. Do you lean any one way in any of those, or are they all just sort of pretty much up there together?
No, I'm pretty flexible. I just love my job. But I think it comes down to story and a message a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, actually, in my work, I think that's purely just an emotional story.
Yes.
Making people feel comfortable. And, I've now got a lot of experience of shooting older models and more plus size. And beauty is often just feeling good and feeling confident. And if you can get the right vibe on set, then for me that is often half the challenge,
Yeah.
And then lovely pictures come from that. Good lighting and styling and all the other stuff obviously helps too.
Yeah,
It's a complex, large package. But you can have beautiful clothes and a beautiful model. But if there's no joy there, if there's no kind of feeling there, often it can feel a bit flat. If it's just a technical picture that's technically perfect, if there's no performance, or no moment,
you lose it.
Then it's not as well-rounded as it could be, I think.
Yeah, it loses impact a little bit. Yeah, I mean, how you need a lot of good lighting to make me and Jake stand out. I'll tell you that much.
But your images are so you are trying to tell a story with your subjects. Then is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, I think I am. Even in the simplest portraits, at least it's a story of feeling good or an emotion, or that there's something there. That is a level beyond just
recording what's in front of you, as it were. Yeah.
Yes, and then getting the aperture and the lighting spot on. It's more than that.
Yeah, you can see it in your images, especially when you're saying, you shoot some of the older people, older ladies and things like that. You can just see their faces that have come alive in the shots that you've done. And you can see that on your website as well. So if people are looking through that, you can see that emotion just be brought out in front of the camera. It's beautiful. Beautiful work.
Oh, I'm glad you think so. Thank you.
So what inspires you for? I mean, I know each subject is different, and each model is different. But what kind of things inspire you for upcoming shoots, and what gets you in that sort of creative mood?
Life. Really, I take inspiration from everywhere, and from just looking at things. But to me, and I know we're all different, but for me it's that thing of I do follow my gut and my heart. So I did an beauty accessories shoot just before lockdown, which was my own personal shoot, and I got a model, and then I hired a little mouse to sit on her shoulder and her head, and it's like,
where mouse.
Yes, it's like, where did that come from? I don't know, but my brain told me that it would be fun to have another level, and for me that was then a story between the model and her friend Minnie.
Exactly. Yeah. The story
there's
again.
This connection story there. There's like they're mates there, and it was the most beautiful little mouse. It came with a handler who's worked with David Attenborough, and the mouse was just a joy and was crawling all over the model's head, and the model was cool with it. And I love the connection in the pictures from that. And it makes it more than just a beauty and accessories story.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
And
so different.
Yeah, and I so last year I had I also, another shoot I did off my own back was I did an underwater fashion shoot with plastic. So because of
my next question,
my upbringing.
That's my next question.
I'm quite passionate about protecting the oceans, and what's wonderful is that this whole plastic awareness is now fully on. People are very aware of it. I think in COVID times it's probably reduced a bit. We've got other things to worry about, but we are making changes as a society and the world towards that. But I did that shoot and then partnered with the Marine Conservation Society, and we did a PR campaign that was incredibly successful and went to all the big newspapers. We got photo of the day in the Times, and it was in the Huffington Post, and we were covered in the Mirror. And we created a PR campaign about getting people involved in the Great British Beach Clean in September. And that's an example of how a fashion image, which is just, I like to call it a beautiful take on a dirty subject. It was just models swimming with different plastic items. So fish, there was one which I called jellyfish, which looks like, the plastic bags look like jellyfish, but she's swimming with plastic bags. And then there's one where there's cutlery floating through the water, and it looks like sardines, but they're plastic cutlery, and it's that there's this statistics from Ellen MacArthur Foundation that if we continue to put as much plastic in the ocean as we are, then by 2050 there's going to be more plastic in the ocean than there are animals, and there's this transition between the fact that the plastic is becoming the animals and taking their place. So it's, that kind of thing gives me great satisfaction to know that my work as a fashion and beauty photographer, which often is used to sell stuff, also can have some positive impact in that way as well.
Yes, back to that positive impact. Was that campaign called Drowning in Plastic?
Yes.
Yes, it was, yeah. Yeah, I didn't even need to ask that question. Are you sure you haven't got my show notes over there? It's like it was in the same order as well. It's like, it completely ruined my line of one of your campaigns I'd love to dive into.
I knew you were going to be gutted about that.
So first off, how did that shoot come about? Where did that idea come from? Because that's the one you said you did off your own back. It wasn't actually a commission to start with.
I just had a strong urge that I should do that. So I did.
Fair enough, yeah. I mean, that shoot, I've seen some of the behind-the-scenes footage of that, and it I've got to say, it looked amazing fun to do, but you had some challenges there just purely in the setup alone, didn't you? How did you prepare for that shoot? And with that tank and all that water and your models and things, what technical challenges did you hit while shooting that campaign that obviously you wouldn't normally, come across in a fashion shooting studio?
Yeah, so my two models are actually, I decided that it was too much of a risk to get models who didn't have lots of underwater experience. So both the girls I used do work as models, but they're also ex-Team GB synchronized swimmers.
Wow.
Wow.
I guess, you got to, a lot of the time, a successful shoot is about putting into place, it's minimizing your risk, isn't it? So,
yes. Using the right elements.
I was going to spend a lot of personal money on doing this shoot. Hiring the tank on its own, I think, is about $3,500 for the day.
Really?
So it gets very expensive very quickly, and so knowing that I'm putting this money on the line and it needs to work out. Well, ideally, I want all my shoots to work out anyway. But in the early days, I'm sure we've all had shoots that didn't really have the desired outcome, and you learn from those experiences. Anyway, I've learned to control as many elements as I had and negate risk, but then also on the day be open to let things happen. And actually, if you've done enough of that, if you can cover off these areas and really feel confident that they're going to work out, then you've got the mental space to think about the creative side of it. Whereas if you're struggling with the technical elements on the day, it's then very difficult to add the next level of performance. And that is why, even on my own test shoots, I don't try and do the lights on my own. I have exactly the same setup as I would have if I have a client shooting and paying for it. I'll have like 2 or 3 assistants. I'll have a digi person. Okay. I have the hair and makeup. I don't try and cut it down to a minimum. I'd rather do one of my own personal shoots every 6 months than try and do 3 at a lower cost. Because I think it's very difficult to then get the level of result that I want by cutting too many corners. If I try and light it myself and do everything, I don't have the mental space to art direct it properly. So on that one, I had models that I knew could do what I needed them to do. I had a tank, and I had the guy who runs the tank there helping me. I had my lovely hairdresser actually was willing to get in the tank, and so Michael Douglas was doing the hair and was had brought his wetsuit and was in the tank. Not only styling hair, but styling plastic,
Okay.
And,
wow.
And then my makeup artist, I knew that she'd done underwater before. She realized what it took to do underwater makeup, so that wasn't going to run and get a mess. Not that we used a lot of it. And then we executed.
And that was that. And lighting it and shooting it. You're getting into the fun aspect now, aren't you? Because you've done all the hard work in the setup.
Yeah.
And the lighting on some of those, we're obviously seeing behind the scenes, but the final images, they look beautiful. They look so nice, which is why I wanted to touch on that actual campaign or that topic.
Yeah, lighting for me is again, I don't have a solution that I keep going back to at all.
No.
For me, it's a gut feeling again. I knew I wanted it top lit because that's what, if you're underwater, the sunlight is all coming from the top. I wanted sparkles on the surface if I could get it. So I had one spotlight kind of kicking in that. So I had an overall more soft top light, and then
bit of a harder
spotlight coming into the middle as well. And and some reflectives around the side just to bounce more light in. I keep it very simple on lighting. I don't try and get too fancy with it most of the time. And I just play with it. I think, again, often it's amazing how you can do one test shot and it looks terrible. And all you need is a slight adjust of an aperture and a little angle of a softbox, and suddenly it looks perfect. I think it's very easy to look at the first test shot and go, oh my God, it's completely wrong. And it's often just these little adjusts that sort of get you there. If you're feeling, you just need to sort of feel it and be confident with it, I suppose.
So
Indeed.
Earlier on, you mentioned about directing. How did you move into that? Is it just something that you like? Is it something that I need to do from a commercial point of view? Look, everybody's going to need moving images. I need to do moving images. Or was it something like I'm getting bored with a still image. I just want to take it to the next level and work sort of grew from there? How did you sort of start into this directing side of things?
I think I had various, inputs coming from sort of, I'd get a client who goes, oh, can we do a behind the scenes for that? And you go, oh, well, no, I don't do behind the scenes. And I still don't do behind the scenes. But I'm like, oh, so they want moving image. And then they go, oh, so we're doing the stills poster, but then we want the kind of digital still where the still starts to move. And you're like, oh, so I need to learn how to do that. That's obviously something. So it was kind of, you get this kind of feedback that there's a demand for it. And then I realized that with the beauty work I do, that I'm a pretty good lighter. And if I could get my head around moving image lighting, I could actually film quite beautiful sort of beauty clips just on set. So again, it was just kind of like a kind of, slowly but surely, I just realized it's something I needed to do and probably wanted to do. But I have to say that I still love stills. I think there's something amazing about still photography because it's so instant and it's a moment, and I love that. The moving image is fun too. I love it, but it's a much longer process, and you've got to edit. It's much more involved and complicated, and it's a much bigger team. And I love, but what I have feel that I can bring to the kind of moving image table now is that I kind of treat moving image like a still shoot. And I think a lot of directors, they come with this massive crew and the gaffers and everything. And I'll come with my DOP and a sound guy if we need it, and a few HMIs and my normal lighting assistants, and I will light it and direct the DOP. So we try and keep it to quite a minimal level most of the time, and that's a really nice solution, which is in between the big film crews and the still crews, and we can still create really very high quality content. I like to think as good as some of the bigger film companies on a much smaller, lighter crew. That we can also shoot much faster. Because we don't need 10 people to reset for the next shot.
Smaller teams as well, you get to maintain a bit more control overall as well. And like with these huge teams, there's just so many chefs, having a part of that final product. It can get a bit diluted, I think, sometimes.
Absolutely. And I think at the end of the day, it can affect the performance of your subject, because there's so much waiting around and setting up, and I like to capture that kind of there's only so long somebody can do happy for when it comes from a natural place, right?
True.
And then
10
when
minutes
you've done
for me, I think.
When you've done the 20th take of joy, it's kind of difficult to keep. That was, I know Wayne organised this with yourself, and he passed on your details to me. And like when I first took a look at your portfolio, like one of the elements that just struck me immediately was just how happy and enthused and sort of glowing the models look. Like that was genuinely, that was not like prompted in any way. I just looked at your work for the first time, and that was the vibe that I got. But the majority of your portfolio is clearly about promoting a very positive and healthy vibe through the women that you work with. How are you getting that energy and enthusiasm from them on the set? Is it you just plan them with wine and music, or like is there more to what you're doing there? I don't know. There's no wine involved, unfortunately. I've never turned to alcohol. There is, but there's definitely. It's my thing. I enjoy it, and I try to enjoy my life. And it's also become slightly my niche, maybe because that's what I like to do. But I definitely work on creating an environment which makes people feel good. I'll choose team members that I know make people feel good. There are certain stylists who would, when putting a piece of clothing on a model, would go, "Oh, you don't fit into sample size. That's a shame." Yeah. Or or you could say, "Sample size, it doesn't fit you perfectly. Let's try this one because this is going to look much better on you." Or it's like, it's. I didn't express that very well. But it's about language. It's about where your language goes. So you can either choose to pick up on flaws, or you can celebrate what you've got and who you are, right? So I will choose team members who are celebrating what and who the model that we are using stands for, and who they are and what they look like. And I make sure that people feel good on set. I will never tell somebody what not to do, for example. I never, ever do. Even if I hate what they're doing in front of the camera, I will then nudge them towards what I would like from them. I won't say, "Oh, don't do that." Or, I'd say, "Well, why don't you try this?" And it's
the encouraging way of changing it, isn't it, to where you want it to go?
Yes, absolutely. We put on good music. We have good food.
Here comes the wine. Here it comes.
Yeah, exactly. But life, it doesn't have to be so serious. And
I like it.
I think that is really good advice. Yeah, I think that's really good advice, and I think that many photographers could go a long way, with their overall approach to listen to that.
Yes.
Because I think it's all very well having your own vision, but at the end of the day, this is a collaborative process with other humans. Like, you do have to bend and buckle a little bit, but chances are you'll end up with something that looks better in the long run if you just are a bit more positive about it, rather than just sticking to nope, you're not doing it the way that I want it, it's going to look bad.
Yes. Well, the thing is, I think I am very vision driven, but I will get to my vision by letting people try out like their suggestions on my route to it. So I know where I want to go, but if the client says, why can't we try this? I'll go, well, let's try it. And I'll show you
how
the
bad it
difference
looks
between your idea and where I was going. And then we'll try both, and they often choose, more often than not, choose the route I was going to take. But you've got to listen to people, and you've got to include them in the process. So, especially if they're paying your fee.
Yeah,
I think we call that the illusion of choice, Elisabeth.
Yes, maybe. And maybe I often give people the illusion of choice.
It's entirely
guiding hand, as we like
just
to
so
call
you
it.
know, we'll be doing it my way in the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it that way.
Yeah. So,
no, but also but that aside, every now and again, also I think as a photographer and a director, I allow myself to be wrong. And that's okay. So I have a way I want to go, and somebody will go, why don't we try this? And I'll go, why? No, I don't want to do it like that. But let's try it. And then every now and again I'll go, oh, it looks better. Okay, let's go with that.
Yeah, you can. You can sort of build on that. Yeah,
I can flip it. Yes, and I that's the. That's again, it's not so serious. So I don't have to get attached to what my ego was telling me and where I had to go. Ultimately, I just want to take the best picture that I can. Yeah. And with my experience and the vision that I have, I will try and get us there. But I do, but at the same time, if you do have a vision and I have an idea for something, you can't be going around asking everybody's opinion. But because then you just get completely lost.
Lost in translation completely then.
There needs to be this firm driving voice that runs through the whole thing, and I'm encouraging illusion of choice.
Exactly.
And but we're talking, if it's a tree branch, we're talking small offsprings rather than big branches. You've still got to have that. You've still got to have that. Or even a winding river, you still got to put the river needs to go one way, and that's down the mountain,
I let them breathe in and out when they want to. It's absolutely fine. Yeah, I mean, I'm open to those sorts of choices.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Are all the women that you photograph professional models?
No, not at all. I've done quite a few campaigns with real. They call them real people. We're all real people, so I don't know why, but real women. So I did a big campaign for Avon actually a few years ago, which we travelled around and shot their most successful representatives. Had nothing to do with their looks. They were shot for their success and for their ability to be amazing brand ambassadors. And I think we made them all look fantastic. Shot them in very bold colours, very bright portraits, full of joy. And it was an amazing experience because I hope that almost every woman who had that experience really loved it and enjoyed it and felt very proud to be part of that campaign.
Okay.
And I mean, we had women from, small villages in Budapest that were coming,
Oh, wow.
That
really?
It was like they've never been on a photo set before, and they were so grateful and so happy to be there, and they had the full model experience. We gave them a bit of a scrub and gave them a nice,
bit of a makeover.
Exactly.
Here comes the wine again. I'm telling you. So, what sort of advice are you giving to these non-professional, these non? What are they called? Real people.
Real people.
Real people.
What do you say to these real people to get them to looking and feeling their best in your shots?
Well, I think everybody knows what being a model is. That's something that everybody is relating to because we see posters and we see advertising everywhere. So they all knew what they were there for.
Sure.
They were there to be the face of Avon. So I would encourage them to bring out their supermodel and to enjoy themselves. And I also always make it very, very clear to people that they can't do anything wrong and that it's just fun. It's not serious. Okay. And we can take 1,000 pictures that are not what we want, but if we've got one or two that are wonderful, that's what we're aiming for, and just kind of take the preciousness out of it. I don't let most of my models look at the screen. I might show them a few after a while once I feel I've got ones that they really like, but I will box it off. Because it's and I won't let them see other people crowded around the screen looking at them because that's very intimidating. So It's just usually me and the model, and I'll create a kind of box where it's just me and that person, and we just have a laugh and we put some music on and we just kind of chat.
That's interesting because it's because there's nothing too tactical there. There's not this checklist of things that you're doing to make sure that people are happy. It's just this overarching sort of like positive feeling and thinking and just being positive about what they're doing and telling them they can do nothing wrong. And that all relates into having great images and great looks at the end, which I find that's a great way to do it. Yeah.
So much fun on your sets, Elisabeth. I'm quite envious.
Wow. I think we do have fun.
You can learn something there, Jake, having fun on set.
Look, we're not here to disco, Wayne. We're here to get the job done. Music on and all that sort of nonsense.
Sorry, I'll bring the wine, mate. Sorry, I'll bring the wine.
Exactly. Yeah, just skip all that straight to the wine.
No, that sounds great. I mean, the happiness is coming. I mean, I know our listeners can't see you, but the happiness is coming out of you just talking about it. Your face lights up with the joy and the smile. There is it just says everything about your work completely. I think. We'll have to screenshot that one, Jake. To get that happy moment of Elisabeth.
Well, I do love it.
Yeah, and it shows. It shows so much that you just love having fun in your shoots and on set as well. Well, we're gonna smash that happiness now, Elisabeth.
Okay.
We've got a section in our show, which is the rapid fire round. It's a little feature we brought in recently, where we've got 10 rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready for this?
Ready.
Are you prepped? It's almost like she's in a little preparation booth, isn't it, Jake?
I know, yeah. I can't believe if she gets any of these wrong, though, there's going to be a bucket of gunge is going to fall down on her. Yeah, big bucket of gunge ready to fall down on you. Hey, that's another episode, Jake. Yeah, YouTube. I know. Yeah.
Right, Elisabeth, here we go. Your rapid fire round. One camera and one lens. What would it be?
Nikon D800.
Nice.
With the 24-70.
Nailed it. What an absolute legend.
Oh, Jake's your friend now, for sure.
It. What's one of the funniest moments you've had on set?
Oh, nothing springs to mind. They're all fun.
I love the rapid fire round.
It's very rapid.
just one funny moment.
Okay,
at the time when you had all that wine.
I can. Well, one of the Avon reps that I shot in Istanbul decided to start disco dancing with me on set.
Wow.
And that was pretty funny. So we had a boogie.
You know what they say? It's not true unless there's video footage. Okay,
I think I've got video footage.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Yes. The link coming to that soon, folks, and that'll be fans only page. Favorite food?
Healthy.
That's broad. That's broad. She is skating around these.
Boring. Thai food.
I see you do a lot of water shoots, but do you prefer shooting on dry land or in the water?
Dry land.
One person you'd love to photograph that you haven't yet.
Well, you see, there's two. Oprah Winfrey, just because
I think
she's amazing.
Yeah.
And Matthew McConaughey, because he's hot. So
I respect it. Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong, though, to be fair. Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah. What's your favourite lighting modifier?
Oh, that's a technical term.
I know.
I think the Octa softbox.
Oh, God, like Wayne.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, yeah. Have you ever messed up a job? And if so, what was it?
No, I haven't. I've messed up my own personal shoots.
She's bound to say that when she's being recorded. She's bound to say that, Wayne.
Yeah. No, everything's just been so
I wouldn't
good.
admit to it either.
I know, but I have shot a few jobs that haven't been used. But that is not my fault.
I agree.
The client changing their mind or...
Love it.
Okay, so one of your own then, if you've messed up one of your own jobs, that still counts,
Okay, well,
one of your own shoots.
One of my first personal projects, it was even before I decided I was going to be a fashion photographer, I just knew I wanted to be a photographer, was I went to the local school with some crazy idea that we should do a big group shot from the roof of the school. So I got this whole school to pose for me in the playground, and I used a fisheye lens, and it's the worst. It was like everything went wrong. It was the worst picture ever. It was a complete flop, and it was very, very embarrassing because it was the school next to my house, and every time I walked past it, I felt like I wanted to sink into the ground. Luckily, we moved about a year later.
Do you prefer video or stills?
Stills.
Studio or location?
Oh, probably location.
Okay.
A good location.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Vineyards of France, somewhere like that.
Are you one of those people that always has your camera with you, even when you're not working?
No, I'm not. I very much believe... I find, I believe in living in the moment. And as much as I adore taking pictures, and I do carry one around sometimes, I find that when I have the camera on me, I become an observer and I'm not in the moment. So with my children, for example, when we're doing things, I feel the need to put my camera away. I think a bit like I feel the need to put my phone away because I want to be in with them, enjoying the moment.
Yeah, you want to be part of it, not just looking at it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm the same. I can't get away with carrying my camera with me and my daughter anyway because it's always daddy, 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 daddy. It's like, God, okay, child.
Exactly.
Okay, well, that's the rapid fire round over. That's your painful 10 questions. You did all right there. Yeah, I think we just got to start calling it the fire round, Jake, less of the rapid. Okay, so Elisabeth, as we know, on a film set, so film set jargon, if you want to call it that, can sometimes separate the beginner from the experienced on set. Have you managed to get up to speed on that side of things now, knowing all the lingo?
Some of it, but not all of it. But again, it's that thing of I don't need to have it all down because it's going to stop me doing the job. And I'm just very honest. I don't have a problem with saying, I don't know what that means. Could you translate it? Or I often get, if I've got a bit, it's only on the bigger sets that I realize I haven't got as much experience as the others. But what I have got lots of experience of is the visual. And I can see it. Yes. If it's right, I can see it. I know what lens they should be using. I also know if the lighting's not right. And I'll then use my assistant, the AD, to do the start and stop. See, I don't even know what words to use there. I'm like, go, cut, go. I haven't nailed the whole kind of rolling, cut. Haven't nailed that. Get somebody else to do that on the big sets. And when it's just me and my DOP on the small sets, then it's just so casual. Then we go, right, let's start rolling.
Start rolling.
We'll go, shot's finished. So the answer would be probably no, not completely.
No.
But I understand most of it.
So with all these very positive mindsets during the capture of the images, what's your opinion on retouching? Because I know, we have a generation of young women and men on Instagram today who are perhaps get a little bit carried away with skin smoothing. What's your take on post-pro at the moment? Any do's and don'ts?
Yeah. I think, with all this sort of reality and real people and bringing in, we're used to seeing imagery in high campaigns that is retouched. So there's a massive, kind of gap of what we're used to seeing and then the complete raw real image. But I do specialize in lighting where very little retouching is needed. I think, when the lighting is right. So I've shot lots of campaigns now which haven't had any retouching.
Nice.
And I think they still look very high end. But I also think too much retouching I'm really not a fan of. I think it's not authentic. I think it looks wrong, actually. And I think it's a way of hiding behind something that's not quite real. And I love realness. But we do, my work often does have a little bit of retouching, the odd spot taken out. We don't do any body shaping. I don't do any body reshaping in my own work at all. But, some clients do require that and they do want it, just the odd bit here and there. But I would say that it's very light.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice to hear.
Light.
That's nice to hear as well, actually.
We've got to be honest about it, I think. It's so easy. I'm not going to say nothing gets retouched because it does. And
sure.
I think almost every single client still retouches a bit. But it's also about keeping stuff sort of a little bit aspirational, and we're used to seeing it. But I think aspirational doesn't mean retouching out your flaws. It's often much more than that. It's, creating a beautiful image and great styling and again, an expression and composition. And if you get all those bits right, you don't need retouching.
Yeah.
You really don't.
Yeah.
Nice but most of a lot of the time, it's difficult to nail every single aspect on the campaign front, I think.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Every client's got their own sort of parameters which they want to adhere to their campaign, haven't they? That's the difficult thing. It's more the client's decision than it is your decision.
Absolutely, yeah.
So when you're shooting in studio, now I know from a lot of your BTS stuff that you're tethering, when you're tethered shooting, you're tethering into Capture One Pro software.
Yeah.
Now my question along those lines is, when you get your the idea of your end result, do you bake in your look in Capture One Pro as you shoot? And what I mean by that is, do you make color grade adjustments to get the look and feel that you want as you shoot, or do you leave all of that for post-production?
No, I do. I put on my profile. Again, I don't have a standard profile I use. So every shoot, I'll look at it and I'll adjust it in Capture for what I think looks good on the day. Yeah. And then sometimes we'll adjust it further, in post. And that's actually what most of my post is, often more color adjusting or bringing out some shadows or... but yeah, I do get that glossy look on screen with Capture by using...
That's the good thing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing tool.
And like you say, you haven't got a specifically to go to, because every shoot and every campaign is different and everyone is going to have a different end result. So you're tailoring it to suit the shoot as you do it on the day, aren't you? Pretty much.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So I was looking at your website, Elisabeth, and I saw that you've modelled for your own photo shoot as well last year. How did you find that? Was it, as a photographer, did you learn anything that would help somebody else when you're on the other side of the camera?
Yeah, well, I realised it sounds quite self-indulgent, doesn't it? Modeling for yourself. But I realized that one of the reasons I was a photographer was because as a kid I wanted to be a model, and I've always been interested in fashion and beauty. But I very clearly understood that I wasn't model material, and I was like, well, what would it be like? Would it be different to be on the other side? And if I did do that, would I gain any insights from that? So I decided to do it as one of my missions. And I decided to also try and just get in shape for the size that a lot of the models are. And just to have that experience physically of what it takes to get there. Wow. And then also what it is like to do the shoot with, the people that I often use, like Ruby Hammer did my makeup and Heath Massey did my hair, and what it would be like to be a proper model. And I got one of my...
But you look incredible in the shots. So, I mean, you certainly got no worries there. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. And I did learn a lot from that. I learned, it's so easy to look at these beautiful people, these top models, and think that it's easy to look like that. It's really hard work to stay in that condition. And I got myself to like an 18% fat, and I lost 5 kilos. Wow. And I got into a size 8. And I know the trend now is just be yourself and be whatever size you're going to be. So, but
real people.
Exactly. And I'm back to my real people size again. Because I'm like, it was lovely being just. I'm a bit slimmer than I used to be, but I definitely went up again because it's so. It requires so much self-discipline to stay at that percentage. I was working out, I was doing CrossFit, I was doing over 10,000 steps a day, I was eating no bloody carbs at all, and it worked, but it was tough, like really tough. And I got there, and I got a personal nutritionist even to get involved. But
I saw that. Yeah, you. To be fair to you, you took it very seriously. I mean, why not? Yeah, if you're going to do it, then go all in. Yeah.
Yeah, all in. I'm very much all in. And but also I learned that it's very painful to stand in high heels for a whole day. And funnily enough, I really, but also I have lacked empathy for my models who start to whinge about standing in high heels. I've been a bit like, oh, come on, it can't be that hard. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
That's interesting. Okay.
Jake has that on the weekends on Saturday nights.
Exactly.
None of us getting any younger.
Can't wait to see that. And also empathy for what it's like being there on set. You feel quite. It's a vulnerable place. Well, you have to be very confident. And you have to, it's a performance. And I think it's easy to think that when you take pictures of people, I mean, I've had this insight before, but it kind of got really hammered in, is that taking pictures or portrait, you could say portraiture is different from being a model. But there is definitely a thread that runs through both those jobs if you're taking a portrait or taking a picture of a model, and that is that there's a performance involved. Even a great portrait has an element of performance to it. And I think if we accept that, it makes it easier for your subject, actually. People who haven't had a lot of experience in front of the camera, if they're like, well, take my picture then, they just sit there on a chair. And you're just taking a picture of me, so why should I do anything? But what do we want the picture to say? So obviously I'm there modeling, trying to look hot.
Love it, great.
And look glamorous, and then you realise that actually I can look okay, with all the makeup and the diet and the fact is that pictures are a performance, any kind of picture almost. And it's accepting that, and accepting that every picture is actually a viewpoint of the photographer that's behind the lens. And it's the image that you're willing to capture. Even Cartier-Bresson with his beautiful buildings and somebody jumping over a puddle. It's his vision, but he sat there and waited for 5 hours for somebody to do that. But it's about what you want to capture, and that usually involves a performance of some kind.
Okay.
But
so what did you take from your time doing that photo shoot? Did you take anything from it? Do you apply something, like when you shoot after you've had that photo shoot? Are you looking at things differently? Are you trying to give more time? Are you trying to give even more positive feedback now that you know what it's like being on the other side? Or
well, one of the big insights that I think I've had around photography as a tool for confidence is that it's a wonderful thing to have a great picture of yourself, especially for women, I think, because I think for men too, to be honest. But, we see beautiful pictures of models and people all around, and you think you can't look like that. But actually, almost everybody with a great team and some good lighting and styling can look fantastic. And having just one picture of yourself looking a bit more like a stud or a beautiful model kind of raises your confidence level a bit. It kind of, I'm not, this club isn't just for everybody else. Maybe I can also be there. And the fact is, it would be nice to be able to say that beauty doesn't matter or looks don't matter. But it runs in our DNA. Again, like fear, it's there, and there are certain things that you can't deny that apparently, like a newborn baby looks more at a beautiful person than not a beautiful person. Beauty is magnetic and it is powerful. And it's just kind of working with that and knowing that actually everybody can belong there. I think if you want, and if that's what you want, I'd like that. I'd like the woman. Maybe it's naive to say that everybody belongs there, but I think that almost anybody that I'm given to take a picture of, I can give that experience to. And hopefully they leave the set with a picture of them looking somewhat at their best, and they can take it away and go, that's me. I look great. And that's helped them feel better about themselves.
Yes.
I think it is valuable to do it, and to have, like, to see what it's like to be on the other side of the camera. I mean, when I worked in a studio, we would insist on all the new shooters coming in. We'd be like, look, you're going to be doing this as a job, but we want you to experience it. So I would do a full blown shoot of them as well. Like, that was mandatory. It wasn't a choice in it. This is like, you're going to be on the other side of the camera. You're going to go through it. So I want you to understand what it's like when you're talking to your clients. You need to know what it sounds like. Yeah.
Yes, but also I was aware that I keep asking people to do stuff and I hadn't done it myself. And, sort of expect people to perform and do things. And I felt I should be able to actually take that role myself and have that ability and experience. And I think it was good for me as a photographer.
Good. Okay. So if we can get tactical for a second, then you've spoken a lot about your lighting and the way that you light. What is it that you like? What is one of your favorite lighting setups? Like what works for you? What do you think works in terms of modifiers and position? Is there something that you could offer?
Well, I think I probably, as somebody who shoots a lot of women, I probably, I feel like there are lighting solutions that suit and make flatter women. And then there are lighting solutions that actually work for men better, and they're not the same. I think for women, if I'm given the job of making a woman look her best, I would probably use a slightly flatter lighting solution, a little bit softer. But I like to put in, I love the Octa softbox, but I also like HMI with that kind of strong shadow, a bit kind of Herb Ritzy, and but I am, again, very flexible with it. But there's no doubt that women often, it's a bit more flattering having just more of a front light and a softer light. And then with men, something that is more edgy is often quite nice to bring out the edginess of men and the ruggedness, and that's a very different light.
So a slightly harder light then.
It's definitely harder. You can kind of rim it around the edges, more side lit, more spot lit.
Yeah.
So I'm probably more adventurous with my lighting for men than I am for women.
Oh really? Okay.
In general.
Just describing my setup there, Elisabeth, you were. Here I am bathing myself in an Arri S30 Sky panel today.
It's such overkill
to the side
for a Skype call.
Apart from the reflection of the top of my head here where it's bouncing off the ceiling.
Yeah, so you've got the edgy male light, and I've kind of sat myself in front of a window so that I get this front light.
Beautiful light, beautiful.
Yeah. There's one of our images here. One is definitely looking more beautiful than the other one. I'll let you figure that one out. I'm definitely not winning that one.
Oh, I don't know about that.
So, Elisabeth, what's next for you? I mean, where is your photographic and directing journey heading now?
Well, I'd like to carry on this journey of, positive change, diversity. I'm sort of aware that it all feels a bit trite, and I'm a bit of a positive, like, oh, let's all be happy and everything. But I enjoy it, and I think
I love that.
And I think the world needs more of it, quite frankly. So I'll be banging that drum, no doubt.
And just to be like, Wayne and I were smiling because we can hear your children playing in the background, not because we weren't smiling at your answer or anything like that. Yeah.
I could hear
the whole party going on down there.
Yes, there is. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
They're pretty jolly too.
So are you heading more? Are you doing more photographic or more directing at the moment, or is it fairly even balanced for you going forward from here in?
I think it's
obviously when we all come back to normal, that is.
Yeah. I mean, all my bigger jobs are now both. So I'll shoot the stills, and then I'll direct the film, and I'll light them both, so that there's this seamless transition, so that the stills feel in line with the film. And I do a lot of lingerie. I have a lot of lingerie clients that I do that for. So I shoot both aspects, and then I've been lucky to do sort of higher end beauty. I just shot the L'Oreal Self-Worth campaign with all their ambassadors. That was out on International Women's Day on the 15th of March, I think it was. And so kind of high end beauty, and then my own projects, which, like the Drowning in Plastic, I'd like to try and fit in some of that.
It's not there. Just keep checking the website.
Wow.
I thought
it was all about this positive, jump in, both feet, don't be afraid, all that. I was told all of that.
I know it is, but it's interesting how every new aspect, I think you have to face that fear again. Like, I started ballroom dancing last year, and because I love dancing. So I've always got some kind
of... Not underwater, surely.
Not underwater. But I have to go through all of that stuff again about performing and being in the right mindset. And it's like every different sort of aspect of... experience, whether it's photography, directing, talking on YouTube, doing podcasts, every single one has its differences, so much so that you kind of have to get used to each new art form, and you have to be kind to yourself about that. So I do believe in jumping in with both feet, but I also now, as I probably got more experience, I'm also a bit more gentle with myself, just a bit more chilled about the whole thing. And, if it feels right, it feels right. And I'm not going to force stuff.
Beautiful. I think that's a great ending question to the show. I mean, just something gentle before we come to a close. I mean, a takeaway. What takeaway can you give to our listeners before you go? And you've pretty much given it in that statement, actually. What takeaway can you give to our listeners? I don't mean like a Domino's or anything like that, or a Chinese takeaway, but something you've learned or realised during your time in the industry as a photographer.
I think if you have the calling to be an image maker, there's a reason that you've got that passion. And I think you just back yourself, quite frankly. Nobody else is going to back you unless you back yourself. So I would say just there's a reason. There's a reason for that. So have a bit of faith in that conviction. Don't listen to anybody else, and go out and create your images. Quite frankly, just do it.
Well said. Well said.
Perfect. Well said. So yes, Jake, learn that lesson. I will be a supermodel, and nobody can tell me
exactly,
any
mate. I believe in you.
Good man. Good man.
I can see it now.
Elizabeth, before we. Oh, please don't. You give people nightmares. To people that know me.
OnlyFans by the end of the week, confirmed.
Well, before we close the show off, we got one final question which we give every guest, and this is where we ask you to personally recommend 2 creatives from either the photographic or the video world, and they can be from any area of that, to come on to Podlomania as a guest for another episode. And we ask you to do a little, email intro to introduce us to those 2 people. Any 2 creatives spring to mind straight away, or do you want time to go and think about that and drop us that information later? Ooh. I think we need like a 30-second countdown on this, Jake. Like countdown or something.
I can see the cogs turning there.
I need a sound effects pads. I need to have these loaded up.
Oh God, no! You would be a nightmare with a sound effects pad.
I'm going to have to think about that one.
Okay,
yeah.
That's cool. We don't need to do that live on air, but we basically ask you, once you come up with the 2 people you want to recommend, just drop us a little intro like Dan did with yourself, a little email intro, and then we'll make it happen from there on.
Okay,
but,
I'll do that.
We're not holding you to that on air. Don't worry. So before we close off, where can our audience find you? What is your social media platforms?
I am on Instagram. And that's Elisabeth Hoff Photo. That's Elisabeth spelled with an S, not a Z.
Yes.
And elisabethhoff.com. I guess that's not a social. That's it.
That's it? So, Facebook?
Not really. You'll find me on Facebook, but not really. I never log on,
Instagram girl.
Don't message me there because I don't check it.
Oh, damn, I sent you a job. It was about 10K's worth over there last week.
Yeah, not meant to be, obviously.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you.
Well said, I like it.
I like that coming into practice.
Maybe I should delete my Facebook, quite frankly. But do you like Facebook?
I don't think you can. I think that's it now.
No, I think you're right. Are you guys on Facebook?
Sadly, yeah.
Any good?
It drives me nuts. I hate it. I hate Facebook. I hate it with a passion.
I just think it's very unvisual.
I prefer it over Instagram personally. But
do you?
Yeah, I'm the other way round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to talk a lot on Facebook. That's why.
True.
Instagram is just a picture.
Too short for you, Jake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jake, you can do video now on Instagram, mate. Just to let you know. Instagram TV.
Oh God!
Get out there, mate. Hour-long episodes. You're sold.
I
can't fit that in with my TikTok as well, Wayne.
I do think Instagram is a little restrictive on that. It would be nice to be able to share other people's work more easily, whereas on Facebook you can do that.
Yeah, true.
But
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. True.
Sometimes I see somebody's work and I go, I'd love to just say that's amazing and share it on my story or something, but it's not possible.
That's a good point. Grab.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Let's screen grab and then share it with their link. You can do it that way. As long as you
let me do that
in
the yeah. Exactly. Can I copyright? Yeah. It's a minefield.
That's brilliant. Thank you for that information to direct everybody to the site. If you haven't been over to Elisabeth's website, pop over there now because the website is beautifully done as well. There's a lot of moving image content on the homepage as well as stills. Yeah. So go and see that going on. It's really, really beautiful to look at. And remember, folks, if you'd like to help us produce and record even more great interviews and content for your ears with some of the world's greatest creative talents, then your donations and support is very appreciated. And you can find little donation links to that on our new website, Jake, that we didn't mention earlier. New website launched 2 days ago for
Looking good, yeah. If you want to see some personal and private images of Wayne and I, then they are on there. And this time I'm not joking.
Yeah, it's not an OnlyFans page, but we are on there.
It's we've done a photo shoot just for you guys.
Just for you guys. Yeah. Before lockdown, we finished it just in time.
We did, yeah, literally, yeah.
And remember, if you like this episode and don't want to miss out on new episodes, then please make sure you subscribe to us on your chosen podcast player, or you can subscribe to the podcast at www.podlemania.com/subscribe. And I have got a list, Jake, of all the podcast players that our show is available on, and it's about 28 different podcast players.
It's ridiculous.
Crazy. I'll put a list up on the blog on the new website. But remember, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, iTunes Store, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, and podlemania.com. And please give us a like, and don't forget to comment, because it helps with our rankings, especially on Apple Podcasts. And finally, Elisabeth, thank you for joining us. A huge big thanks to you for coming on. I know we've had some technical issues in this episode, which people won't be aware of in the final edit. But we look forward to catching up with Elisabeth in the future. Some new things that we know about that you don't. And we're still having a party at Elisabeth's house, and I'm going to bring the wine.
My kids have opened it now.
No, Elisabeth.
That's it. It took too long. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. You've been amazing. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Elisabeth. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And it's been our pleasure. It really is. And your work is absolutely beautiful, as are you.
Aww.
So thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Where can people find you, Wayne?
Probably on lockdown, mate. Still here in the studio forever.
Online. Where can they find you?
I knew where you're going with that. For me, people can go and have a look at my work, and it's just www.waynejohns.com. Instagram is WayneJohns_photographer, the same as Facebook and pretty much any other social media forum. And we know where you are, Jake. All roads lead to
jakehicksphotography.com. Thank you, Wayne. What a beautiful introduction. Not prompted at all.
Not prompted at all, mate. It's not even in my show notes.
And
I ingrained as that
duly noted. Yeah.
And to all our listeners, thanks again for listening to this episode. And we have a more fun and exciting guest coming up. So from us here at Podlemania,
thanks,
we're
guys.
Say goodbye.